I'm honored to be here at Georgetown University. You have a faculty that is first-rate. You have a student body that is one of the best in America. And until a little upstart named Davidson came along, your basketball team had a good shot at the NCAA title. But President De Gioia's invitation started me thinking about the many similarities between Jesuits and News Corporation. But President De Gioia's invitation started me thinking about the many similarities between Jesuits and News Corporation. Both the Jesuits and News Corporation attract highly talented people from all over the globe. Both the Jesuits and News Corporation like to challenge the status quo. And both the Jesuits and News Corporation have a reputation for independence and innovation. Of course, there are some differences. I don't want to discourage anyone who might be considering the priesthood. But I will tell you that at News Corporation, we don't insist on vows of poverty or chastity. And as chief executive, I can tell you that I'm sometimes not sure about the degree of obedience either. A year ago, we launched an initiative to help solve one of the world's greatest challenges, a warming climate. We're committed for a selfish reason. We want our business to be around for the next 100 or even 200 years. But this is not about business shouldering the responsibility for society. It's really about leadership and innovation. So we're working to reduce our environmental impact. And we, everywhere as a company, will be carbon neutral by 2010. But more importantly, we're working to inspire and enable our employees and our audiences to take action on these issues. Now, let me tell you the challenges we face. I grew up in an age where your family read the same newspaper and you had a big box television set that sat in your living room and had maybe 2 or 3 channels. You are growing up in a digital world where you send email on your cell phones, where you can listen to a history lecture on your iPod, and where you use your laptop to reach people all across the world. This is what I mean by creative destruction. Every day, new technology is tearing down old ways of doing business. In the process, it is driving us away from a mass media where news and entertainment was centrally controlled. And it is taking us to an exciting new world where consumers like you are determining what content you want, when you want it, and how you want it.
Hello and welcome everybody to today's reading of Codeword Barbelon, Danger in the Vatican. And this is our, 18th or 19th edition? I forget. I think it's the... Can you help me on this one?
Nope.
No. Okay, well, I'll catch up on that later. And I'll update you guys on which one it is, because I have not.
But I love it. But I love it that you say. I love it that you say of our today's reading or daily reading, as you said, so that points out that it is becoming a habit for us to do this daily, because this is really what we want to do. We want to really go through that and don't leave, things unattended and do other things on the side, but really want to go, make it a kind of a quote-unquote ritual to take every day a little bit the time to go through this book. Of course, the people who watch these videos don't know that, because it still takes a time until this is uploaded, especially on my channel, where I have so many other things to do. But that's not the important point. The important point for us is that when we are able to sit together every day for about an hour to do a reading of the Codeword Barbelon, we stay concentrated in this book. We don't lose the train of thought, and that's very important. Therefore, I really love what you just said. What you just said in your intro to our to this day's reading instead of to the next reading, because then it could have been even 3 weeks pause in between.
Oh, this has happened already.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, everybody, we had like a 3-week pause there because, yeah, it's a matter of making the time for it, Jörg, and just as you said, making time and dedicating it to a daily reading. Yep, that's right, and that's a goal that we have. Yep, and
today we have the 8th of February, Thursday. So we did a recording on the 7th. We did at least one on the 6th, if not two, because one of these days we even did 2 recordings.
That's right. Yep.
So it's wonderful. We really stay focused on that. And Bret, without any further introduction, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but you said that you don't have that much time today anyway, because there are other chores waiting for you.
Yeah,
and
that's right,
errands that you have to run and all that stuff to do, and I understand that. So by that, let me just cut you short and tell you that we are on page 102, starting chapter 9 of the book Codeword Barbelon, The Sons of Loyola and Their Plans for World Domination. In this chapter 9 that is called Father of the Jesuits, Saint Ignatius de Loyola. And of course, when I read this, I read it so because it is written in this book. If I, Jörg, had to say this, I would say, quote-unquote, father of the company of Jesus, quote-unquote, Saint Ignatius de Loyola. I would always put these things in quote, because God told us to call no one on earth our Father.
Right. That's
except,
right. Very
except
good
the one
point.
which is in heaven.
You know, I just got a quick say, I'm sitting here looking at the last chapter we just read. Well, listen, I could write a whole chapter on what we just read, because the origin and mission of the Society of Jesus. Just think about how much blood, how many tears have been shed over this society. And yet, they're the most prominent, the most powerful, the most treacherous society on the face of the earth as we speak.
Incalculable tears and incalculable drops of blood have been shed. And you know that yesterday night I was reading together with Tom about the Ustasha and the atrocities of the NDH in the Second World War, and how that relates to the United States of America coming over there. The founding of the Jesuits, well, that is really something that you can get lost in. And today I was doing a delivery of wine with clients, and I sat an hour and a half in the car, and I was finally listening to broadcast of 2010 of Tom, where he got again into John Carroll, where he wrote the letters to the Pope, where he wrote the letters to the Pope and started to found a American Catholic Church instead of a Roman Catholic Church in America, because they could not accept the temporal power of the Pope, because otherwise they would have been crushed. And then Tom also made the connection to rulers of evil and all that stuff. And
I got to follow up on your suggestion and start listening to that.
The more you learn of all that stuff, and especially the book, The Ark and the Dove, book 3, the last part of that book, not the first 2 parts, but especially the last part. And you see these connections, tears come up in your eyes when you see how we, through our ignorance, are allowing these people to rule us.
Yes, that's right, Jörg. That's the point. That is the point.
There was a very smart man who said once, for a bad man to succeed in his plans is for the good man to do nothing. Where are the good men of today? Where are, as we read in All Roads Lead to Rome from Michael de Semlyen, where are the people who are sounding the alarm today?
Doesn't it say in the Bible that the righteous perish and none notice or something? I forget how that goes.
Something like that, yeah, probably. I don't want to look that up right now, but that sounds like a biblical quote, absolutely. The point is that we are so dumbed down through our education, and God is so taken away out of our lives that we are just not able to see these things. And that is the biggest shame of them all. Because when we come to age, and we come to the age of awakening, I would even say, because, it took me 45 years to get shaken by God, and that he opened my eyes all of a sudden. That's just a few years ago. So 45 years I've spent in this world as a zombie.
Yep.
And how many people didn't share in my fate? Well, most of the people in this world share that fate, and that is such a shame. And when we were reading this about Plato's cave years ago on Nothing But the Truth, we made a wonderful broadcast about Daniel 9. And then afterwards, and Tom read the prayer of Daniel wonderfully. And then afterwards, we did another broadcast with half an hour break in between, and we read about Plato's cave.
Oh, yes.
You can find that in the playlist of Nothing But the Truth. And when we read Plato's cave, in the beginning, there is a saying that once you've tasted truth, you don't want to let go anymore, or even you can't let go anymore. This is more addictive than heroin, than cocaine. This is more addictive than anything else. Once you tasted the truth, you want to get to the bottom of it, and this is driving you, and this is what drives me. This is what drives Bret, and this also is what drives Tom Friss from Inquisition Update.
Well, yeah, because
this permanent exposing of the same error again and again and again.
Sure.
And even though that we repeat ourselves, we do not give any redundant not necessary messages. It is necessary, because the truth told once is rather not to believe, but the lie that told 1,000 times. In other words, a lie told 1,000 times, people believe easier than the truth told once. That's the way the saying goes. And this book, the Codeword Barbelon, is full of truths. Of course, here and there are also errors. Here and there also the author doesn't have the full spectrum at hand and doesn't tell us the whole story. I think there are very, very few authors who tell the whole story. One, for example, I can tell you is Henry Gretton Guinness. He called a spade, at least in his book Romanism and the Reformation. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, there's no doubt about that.
But also P.D. Stuart in this book really comes to the point. But I just want to tell you that every time when I read things like Father of the Jesuits, Saint Ignatius Loyola, and I have to read it just like this without making any comment or putting it into quotation marks, it sends shivers down my spine.
Yes, I understand.
Because even this author, he did not put father in quotation marks. He put saint into quotation marks. And that, to me, is a sign that he maybe didn't fully understand why he's using these things. I think that when we as Bible-believing Christians are using words like saints, we should use them in the sense that they are meant to be used. Meaning, the saints in the sense of the Bible are the living, Bible-believing, Jesus Christ-following Christians. Those are the saints.
But think about it. To name a town, to name a huge city, St. Paul, and you say it over and over and over and over and over all your life, you live around it, you're stuck with it. It's permanent in your brain. You can't get rid of it. You know?
Yeah.
This is the problem. It's permanent.
Well, that's the point that I wanted to make in the beginning, Bret, and still we are not going to read, so I'm apologizing already to the listener.
Well, I just wanted to make that quick comment
about it. When I said that we are so indoctrinated with these things from when we are little babies, we don't even see the lie anymore.
No.
So there will be a lot of people who open this book, open chapter 9, and read Father of the Jesuits, Saint Ignatius de Loyola, and they don't even have second thoughts When they read,
that's right,
quote-unquote, Father, when they read, quote-unquote, Saint Ignatius de Loyola. And this is the point that I just wanted to make. I wanted to bring to your attention that every time when you read this, check this against the Bible. What does the Bible say? The Bible says, call no one on earth your father. So when they're standing in this book, Father of the Jesuits, it should have been put in quotation marks. The author should have done that to distinguish his writing from Roman Catholic writing.
Well, Jörg, you can look at it on the other side too, because, oftentimes, it takes time to develop skills where you can point these things out. And I think you said it yourself too a while back that, there are things that people have to discover on their own.
That's right.
And this might be one of them, Jörg.
We can't teach them all.
No.
We have to leave something to their own discernment. And,
right.
I always was of the conviction, and I still am of the conviction, that only the truth that you find out for yourself is the truth that you can accept in the bottom of your heart. Bret can tell you as much as he wants. I can tell you as much as I want to. But if you don't find that out and make that truth your own truth through your own investigation, through your own research, it will always leave you with a nagging feeling of, is this really true? Is this really the truth? How was that revealed to me? And only when you're being led by the Holy Spirit and you dive into the Bible, and the Holy Spirit leads you into the understanding of the Bible, and then you can confirm what was written in the Bible in secular books like history books, like Codeword Barbelon, like Romanism and the Reformation, like The Papacy is the Antichrist from James Edgar Wiley, like All Roads Lead to Rome from Michael de Semlyen. All these books, then you confirm that what you have known, what you have learned from the Bible, from the Word of God itself. And then only then you can accept into the bottom of your heart that that is the truth. And that will hopefully let you return to YouTube channels like Bret Norman or Joggler66 to get more of this, because like in the allegory of Plato's cave, now you have the hunger and you don't want to let go anymore. This is like you are addicted to eating the truth 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 360 days a year. And no, I didn't forget 5 days. I have my reason when I speak of 360 days a year, not 365.
That's right.
Shall I start?
Please, Jörg. Please.
So I'm going to read it like it is written in the book, but still when he mentions the Pope, I often say Antichrist. That will you not find written in the book in that way, but I cannot help it. I read that all the time.
Go right ahead, Jörg.
Yeah?
Yep, that's right.
Father of the Jesuits, Saint Ignatius de Loyola. Here comes a quote from Alexander Pope. Quote, "Then rose the seed of chaos and of night to blot out order and extinguish light." Forgive me, kind reader, but I must say a few more words about the father of the Jesuits. An immense halo has been placed upon the head of Loyola, and we must now see whether it is in fact rightly deserved. Thus far we have spoken a great deal about the characteristics and the virtues of the Jesuits. But what of their founder? Who was this Spartan, this ragamuffin, this fox, El Zorro, this mortal wretch called Ignatius de Loyola? Says J. Huber, professor of Catholic theology, and by the way, he is a Jesuit, quote, "A mysticism and cold a mixture of piety and diplomacy, asceticism and worldly wisdom, mysticism and cold calculation, as was Loyola's character, so is the trademark of his order," unquote. That is to say, intransigent, stubborn, obdurate, intrepid, and unscrupulous, crafty, insinuating, perverse, contumacious, lewd, shameless, deceptive, sycophantic, reprobate. Where do we know the word reprobate from? Romans chapter 1.
Oh, yeah.
And they have a reprobate mind. Don Inigo de Onesti y de Loyola, born in 1491 and died in 1556, sometimes erroneously, I just wanted to read a C as an E as a C again, sometimes erroneously titled Inigo Lopez de Recalde Loyola, was born in his father's Castle de Loyola, northern Spain, close to Azpeitia, in the Basque province of Guipúzcoa. Yeah, Spanish is not one of the languages that I am very familiar with.
Oh, me neither.
Excuse me for butchering this word. The province of Guipúzcoa. The birth of Inigo was nearly contemporaneous with that of the German monk and reformer, Dr. Martin Luther. And it is there where the similarity ends. Had the law of eugenics been known to the midwife in 1491, or perhaps if she could have foreseen the future, she probably would not have permitted such a child to have been born. To quote Alexander Pope, for, quote, then rose the seed of chaos and of night, to blot out order and extinguish light. Now, in my personal opinion, you can agree with me or you can disagree with me, P.D. Stuart makes a mistake in what he writes here. When he says, had the law of eugenics been known to the midwife, or perhaps if she could have foreseen the future, she probably would not have permitted such a child to have been born. Well, there is one who has seen the future, who has written the future, who has written all events even before we are going to know them, and he is called God. And this God knows every man before he is born, even in the womb of his woman. If this child had not been born, another child had been born. God is still in control, and God also uses the enemy with the reprobate mind to fulfill his prophecies. And that's why Ignatius of Loyola had to be born. So I do not agree with what P.D. Stuart says here. From a temporal point of view, I agree. But from a spiritual point of view, I have to point out that what P.D. Stuart writes here is incorrect. How do you see that, Bret?
Well, to tell you the truth, I was sitting here looking at this verses here, and my mind was not entirely engaged in the beginning of the paragraph, Jörg, when you were reading. So I'm not with you. I apologize.
No problem. Take a note, and you can say that in the next broadcast. Then what think about that?
Okay, cool. We'll do. Yep.
Anyway, I'm going to continue here. Inigo, also known as Ignacio, and then later, of course, who later called himself Ignatius, as the author writes, changed his name, Romanized his name. I gave you already an example, like I did the same with Donald Trump when I called him Donaldus Trumpius in my Hour of the Truth videos to make the suggestion very strong that he is a servant of Rome, was the youngest son of the highest Spanish nobility. His parents were Marranos, which means Spanish for Jews converted to Catholicism. I am not very sure about this, what he says here. I have to dig into further information on this, because I know that there are lots of people who say the Jesuits are crypto-Jews. They are formed from Marrano Jews out of Spain, and I have read and listened to other research on the family of Ignatius of Loyola, and that did not confirm that they were Marrano Jews. So I don't agree with the author here, but I leave that in the middle and say that everybody has to do his own research on this. I am just saying that in Spain at that time, the Jews were more or less a persecuted people, and they were never people of a nobility. Now we have to understand, and maybe the author tells us this later, that around a few corners, Ignatius of Loyola is even in the same bloodline of the Roman Emperor Charles V at that time. So I do not believe this Spanish Jews converted to Catholicism is the basis of the family of the Marranos is the basis of the family of Loyola. But I'm not going to discuss that here. I leave that to your own research. And I'm going to tell you that if God tells us that we are under the rule of the Gentiles, we are under the rule of the Gentiles and not under the rule of the Jews. Marrano, crypto, or whatever. No Jew. Anyway, he continues, from the start, Loyola had all the advantages of his courtly class. His youth was passed in the splendor and luxury of a Spanish courtier. A lean, battle-scared swashbuckler with the fanatical energy and daring of an Andalusian bull, his temper and passions were legendary. The founder of the Jesuits, their helmsman Ignatius Loyola, was a vainglorious personality and a sexually incontinent young man. The Jesuit John Hungerford Pollen reveals that, quote, at an early age he was ordained a cleric, but was afterwards released from his obligations, though when or why is no longer known, unquote. Now, why was Loyola released from his vows? Mr. Hungerford admits, quote, 3 writs, means lawsuits, have been found belonging to a hitherto unknown process held in 1515 against Ignatius and his brother Pedro y Lopeza, unquote. The writs, says Hungerford, charged Ignatius, then 24 years of age, and his brother Pedro with, quote, enormous delicits.
Deceits, yeah. Oh, no, delicits? Wow, that's a weird word. I've never heard of that one. I'll look it up.
Yeah, but I read it correctly. That's something.
You did. Sorry. That was enormous my reaction.
The probability is now clear that Inigo was involved in some offense which could not be passed over, unquote. A delicit is a serious criminal offense under canon law, which includes the sexual abuse of a minor. So let's say we are speaking about pedophilia. All right? Yet this crime is nowhere mentioned in the many books about Loyola or in the Catholic Encyclopedia.
Thank you, P.D. Stuart.
Of course it is not mentioned in many books about Loyola or in the Catholic Encyclopedia. This is what they hide from you.
Yes. Yes, of course. For good reason, too. So they can get away with it. How sick.
That a delicit, continues P.D. Stuart, usually involves a sexual crime is seen from a controversial letter, De Delicitis Gravioribus, of May 18, 2001, from the current Pope at that time, Benedict XVI, to all Catholic bishops, directing that confidential details of accusations made against priests for, quote, certain serious ecclesiastical crimes, unquote, including sexual abuse, were not to be revealed on pain of excommunication from the Church. See final chapters for details of this letter and the Pope's rationale for its use. Now I have to make a little comment here, and this once and for all will take care of those people who speak of quote-unquote coincidences. Today I received an email, as I always receive an email when I sub to some channels. And that channel that I received an email from, that he uploaded a new video, was presenceofgodministry.org. And that video was called Pope Caught Lying. And this video, sorry, I just have to stop this. Stop here. Start the video here to see the right title. So, Pope Caught Lying. That is from Nicholas POGM, published on the 7th of February 2018. So that was last night, because this morning when I woke up I found it. And it deals about Pope Francis lying about ties that he had to ties bishop to sex abuse that Francis was knowing about. This video, maybe Bret, you can put the link of that video in the description of this video so people can have a look at it for themselves. Here it is said that there was a letter transported to Pope Francis himself, which then later, and this was dealing with sexual abuse of children through a bishop, and then the Pope said, I never got it, even though it was brought to him personally. So there is no question about if that was brought to him or not. It absolutely was, and it was even just let me read this one paragraph here. It says, a victim's graphic letter describing sexual abuse by a priest that was witnessed by a controversial Chilean bishop was hand-delivered to Pope Francis 3 years ago, contradicting the pontiff's claims that he was unaware anyone had come forward about a cover-up, the Associated Press reports. So this comes from the horse's mouth itself, from the Associated Press. And we all know that through Miranda Prosos and Inter Mirifica, the Roman Catholic Church controls all the press, even the Associated Press. And this Associated Press even reports this. Why? Because these things have to come out in the open. And why do they have to come out in the open? Well, very simple, because the Roman Catholic Church wants chaos, and then they can produce their order out of chaos. So they stir this up, and for that they abuse popes, bishops, cardinals, they abuse anyone they ever want. But now we are just reading here about this sexual crimes, certain serious ecclesiastical crimes, including sexual abuse of Ignatius Loyola, the founder of the Jesuits. And in the same day, when I read this, Nicholas of Presence of God Ministry comes out with a video, Pope caught lying on the same subject. This, to me, is no coincidence. This is divine edification of the listeners of this video. Any comment there from you, Bret?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing when you said that, when we were reading this, about that video, and dealing with the man of sin. You know, he's got to do his part in the world, otherwise he's not the man of sin. Mm-hmm. Yep. So he's got his little duty that he's got to fulfill, and he does it. And you know, it tries every one of us, doesn't it? I mean, there are people that think the Pope is actually a decent man, and they're not aware of the historical significance of the papacy, nor do they care for it. You know, they just want to, you know, be trendy and do all the latest things and ignore it. You know, they try to ignore it, really. So this ignorance is going to get them. The ignorance of the world is just incredible right now. It just baffles me. And I'm sure it's that way for you too, Jörg. You know, I mean, it just, how can people allow this to continue? I don't know. It just baffles you. But this is what we got. We got a president of the United States who thinks he's Christian, and is battling over that with the Pope in his election last year. I mean, come on. This stuff is so stupid. But the people buy it. I don't know. Yeah. So that's all I got for now, Jörg. I'm still kind of waking up over here, having my coffee, and maybe not entirely with the reading today because I'm trying to catch up, playing catch up. That seems to be my office lately, playing catch up.
Good. I continue reading then.
Please.
We also know that Ignatius was jailed in his adult life for his involvement with a sect called the Alumbrados, or Spanish Illuminati. Quote, Ignatius was suspected of being a member of the Illuminati and was thrown into prison by the Inquisition. Upon his release, he made his way to Salamanca in 1527, the great university, but being again suspected of Illuminism, was again thrown into prison. Unquote. At Salamanca, Loyola was brought before an ecclesiastical commission in connection with the sect, but escaped with only an admonition. The historian Marcelino Mendes y Pelayo tells us that the Alumbrados was a mystical movement which was at one time led by La Beata de Piedrahita, who came under the notice of the Inquisition in 1511 for claiming to hold conversations with Jesus and the Virgin Mary. And this is something that we can read in his book Los Heterodoxos Españoles from 1881, volume 5. The Alumbrados claimed to have received secret knowledge from an unknown higher source, resulting in superior human intelligence. The cult was condemned by an edict of the Grand Inquisition in 1623. The first record of the cult was around 1492 in Spain. A variant spelling Aluminados appeared later in 1498. They believed that the human soul could enter into direct communication with the Holy Spirit, and due to this, they could have visions and revelations. These mystical qualities would later become major features in Ignatian spirituality. Well, I thank P.D. Stuart for this last sentence that he wrote, because I was just going to about on a rant. That, that everything that we just read is just the basis for the spiritual exercises practiced in the education of every Jesuit, and used in, and Bret knows this because he lives in that area, in the retreats the Jesuits do. A week, 3 weeks, sometimes even a month or more. And in these retreats, people are being indoctrinated with spiritual, how do you say that? Spiritual exercises all day long.
That's right. Well, you know, it's funny, Jörg, the indoctrination is so deep with me personally. Only a couple years ago, I was still calling my own videos retreats. How sick. Makes me sick thinking about it. You know, my own little personal world here. This isn't my public world that I'm sharing with you. This is personal, okay? You know, it just makes me sick how I've been indoctrinated, okay? This is one of the reasons why I enjoy studying this so much, because I learn how far it goes. It goes much further. It goes much further than the mind could ever comprehend, Jörg. It's way beyond us. That's the point, is that we've been so led into this quote-unquote Babylonian captivity, we have no idea until we start looking at the facts, the biblical facts, the historical facts, and then we can start to make some kind of sense out of it. And there is no book you can turn to that will tell you your personal journey. You have to do that on your own. That's the point. So,
a very interesting point here, I think, is in the sentence is that the historian Pelayo tells us that the Alumbrados was a mystical movement which was at one time led by La Beata de Piedrahita, who came under the notice of the Inquisition in 1511 for claiming, listen good, to hold conversations with Jesus and the Virgin Mary. I know from other readings that I did on Ignatius of Loyola that is exactly how his quote-unquote spiritual exercises started. That he had this personal coming together with, first of all, the Virgin Mary, and even with Jesus Christ. And I know that we read that somewhere, Bret. I don't know where, in which book that was anymore, where it dealt about that. You know, you have to imagine that you are there with Jesus and his disciples and speak to him and this and that. You know, right. We spoke about that, and these are the spiritual exercises. The problem is the people think they are speaking to Jesus. They think they are speaking to the Virgin Mary. But I can tell you one thing, they maybe speak to the real Jesus, but when they speak to the Virgin Mary, they are always speaking to a demon. And when you are speaking to a demon and to Jesus Christ at the same time, then that is not the Jesus Christ of the Bible. Then that is not a personal relationship that you seek with the Creator of this world, with the Savior of mankind, who died for you on the cross. But then you are betrayed by another spirit. And that's the thing that I wanted to say earlier already. We have to understand that Satan is transformed into an angel of light. And therefore, it is no wonder that his ministers are also transformed into ministers of righteousness.
Yes, that's right.
And the fallen angels that were cast out together with Lucifer out of heaven, he took a third of the angels with him. Those fallen angels are the demons, and these demons dress up as, when you're doing the spiritual exercises, when you invite unwanted spirits into your brain, let's say, they play the role of Jesus, they play the role of Mary, they play the role of Joseph, they play the role of John, of Peter, of Paul.
It's wicked imaginations, Jörg.
It's wicked imaginations. Yeah, it is because
it's one of the 7 things that the Lord is an abomination unto the Lord. It's in chapter 6 of verse 16 of Proverbs. I just put that in my video. I just thought I'd mention it.
It's because people don't check every spirit.
Yes.
In the book of Acts, I think it is that we are to check every spirit before we use them. That's the whole problem with the whole Pentecostal movement and the speaking in tongues and all that stuff. I mean,
and I was also thinking, Jörg, is what you and Tom Fress of Inquisition Update have been saying all along, is mixing the holy with the profane, right?
Yeah.
That's what this is these spiritual exercises. They're taking something holy and they're mixing it with the profane, and they're not telling you. Rather, they're treating it as a quote-unquote religion, when really it's a diabolical abomination to our Lord. It's no religion. Not to me.
No, it's sorcery.
Yes, sorcery. Thank you.
And necromancing.
And then here it says the cult was condemned by an edict of the Grand Inquisition in 1623. Think of the snake eating itself, the Ouroboros. Same thing. It's just creating its own enemy and then destroying it. See, we solved the problem. No problem here. Let's move on, right?
That's right. Yeah. I just want to make sure that everybody understands this very last sentence on this paragraph on page 104 very clearly. These mystical qualities would later become major features in Ignatian spirituality. The spiritual exercises are based on the assumption that you are going to have a quote-unquote spiritual, personal, true relationship with, first of all, the Virgin Mary. And that you have to imagine of being there with Christ and have your own conversation with him. And that Christ that you see in these imaginations is not the Christ of the Bible. Be ye warned. Change of plans. Change of name, the author continues in the next under chapter of this chapter, Father of the Jesuits.
It says, you know what, Jörg, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it might be a good time to wrap it up for today, because I really got to get going.
Okay, then we're going to continue here next time on page 104 with the second under subject of Father of the Jesuits, Saint Ignatius de Loyola. We didn't read that much, but I hope we gave you an idea about what the spiritual exercises are. And please avail yourselves to any other written documents and books that you can find on the internet to get to know more on the spiritual exercises. But make sure that you do your research from the outside and not from the inside. Means don't get caught in the idea to start trying these spiritual exercises, because then you will leave another spirit into your body, into your brain, and that spirit you will hardly get rid of again later. That is how people get possessed.
Yes, yes, it is. And it's so easy to do in this world, too, because practically everything supports it in this corporate environment.
Yeah, that's why they sell so many Ouija boards and all that stuff.
Oh, yes. And it's fun to be demonic in this day and age. I mean, it's sick. It's really sick.
Until the day of judgment.
Yeah.
Then the fun stops, I can tell you.
Oh, I could go on and on and on in my little personal rants, but, you know...
well, maybe next time, because now you don't have the time, Bret.
No, I know. That's the way it is. But I'm so thankful we can start to make this a daily occurrence that we can meet, Jörg. And even if it's only a half hour, I hope that people will accept it. And, you know, maybe shorter ones are better, Jörg, because, you know, these long, drawn-out discussions are very good. But I'll tell you, the people lose the attention. I mean, I was just talking to one of my friends online, chatting to one of my friends online, and she was just telling me that she can only handle about a half hour. So I was thinking, well, maybe we should make these a little shorter. What do you think about that, Jörg?
Well, I think we should stick to that 1 hour that we normally do when time allows us to.
Perfect.
So that's my opinion, because I used to do readings of an hour and a half to 2 hours, and then I cut it down to 1 hour, and I think 1 hour is really quite well working. I mean, the people can write us in the comment section of this video what they think about it, but especially when you do a book reading, when you read out of a book, you should take an hour to take your time to read at least a few pages. And
yeah, I think everyone's got a different expectation, shall we say, of what they want from a given video without ever hearing it or seeing it, or, you know, everyone's got an expectation. We can't meet everyone's expectation. That's the point, right, Jörg?
Yeah, that's true.
It's impossible. It won't happen. So, all right, Jörg. Well, thank you very much. And do you want to close it up today?
No, it's okay. I said what I wanted to say, and just want to thank the listeners and the viewers of this video for watching the video, for giving support by subscribing to my channel and to Bret's channel. And I see that Bret's channel has grown the last year with 25 to 30% more subscribers, which I absolutely love, because that means that there are more people interested in the truth when he gets that out.
Yes. And also Tom Fress's work at Inquisition Update, you should check that out too. And we fully endorse and support Tom in his ministry as well. And such a great educational resource Tom is. He's done so much valuable research for so many years. And we fully support him and back him 100%.
That's true. I just want to end with, when you have the possibility, when you have the few dollars to buy this book, Codeword Barbelon, get a copy of this book. Get a copy of this book. And when the next video comes out,
thank you.
You maybe have this book already, and then you can read along. And, you know, reading this book all by yourself is one thing. Reading this book along when someone else like me is reading it to you and discussing it, then of course you will see where I stop reading and discuss all of a sudden, but that's no problem. But when you're reading this along with somebody else who is reading it, it sinks much better in.
Oh, absolutely right. And not only that, but it allows you and enables you to research the topics more in depth, and you have that resource right at your fingertips.
Yeah, and whenever you are watching one of these videos and one of these readings and you say, oh, I can't concentrate anymore, well, therefore you have a pause button. The video doesn't go away. Just pause it.
That's right. You got
Just
it.
Pause it. Take a 5-minute break, smoke a cigarette, drink a coffee, whatever you do for relaxing. I mean, I don't advocate smoking cigarettes because I stopped, but you know,
many
I'm not telling people,
and it's
I'm not telling people what to do and what not to do. If you think I need to go outside and smoke a cigarette and then come back refreshed and listen on, then please do. Do anything that helps you to get the truth, to get the knowledge of the truth into your life. And the only truth, and that is where I will cut my conversation today with, The only truth that you will ever find in this world is the authorized 1611 King James Version of the Bible. Turn to that daily and come back to our next reading of Codeword Barbelon next time too. Please. Thank you very much for watching and listening. Jörg from Juggler66 signing off says, God bless you and bye-bye.
And Bret Norman says the same thing. God bless you and bye-bye.
Since World War II, America has encouraged and benefited from the global advance of free markets, from the strength of democratic alliances, and from the advance of free societies. At one level, this has been a raw calculation of interest. The 20th century features some of the worst horrors of history because dictators committed them.
With eyes now opened, look at yonder sight. Satan transformed, an angel of the light. His left hand holds a crucifix, his right a naked sword. What harmony in these, the quickened sense the adversary sees, spite of disguises, as the piercing eye of Jesus did the prince of hell descry. Hid in the form of Peter, so our gaze looks on the lie with anger and amaze. Rome is a hierarchy, and means the reign through priests of the old enemy again. 200 millions of the sacred sway of the triple tyrant and his word obey. Upon them 500,000 priests with feet audacious tread and tramp as seemeth meet. Upon the priests 1,000 bishops climb and cluster on their shoulders while sublime. Above the bishop cardinals appear, and over them the ruler of the sphere. The aged autocrat, and close behind frowns the dark visage of the mastermind. O form half seen, half hidden, black as night, and blood-stained, furtive, shrinking from the sight, slippery, unearthly, calculating, cold, the papal helm and scepter thou dost hold. Yes, thou! The vision startles men at times, and then recedes, the mountain of thy crimes. Looms like a lurid Etna twixt the clouds, and while the world is gazing, darkness shrouds the horror, and men think on it no more. Yet there it is in fact, as it was before. Satan himself beneath the sacred name of Jesus followers the loftiest claim, the purest doth advance, angel of light. His name is Jesuit or Jesuite. The company of Jesus, Satan's band, his own militia, his material hand, his heart of falsehood, his most subtle mind, his serpent shape while coil in coil doth wind, and in the folds, the fangs, the glittering eyes, God shall unearth thee, yet thy sentence lies writ in his book, yea, hast thou never read, the woman's seed shall bruise the serpent's head? He whose great name thou bearest, he shall crush thy hateful head. Go then, thy presence hush. Slip slyly into palaces and shrines, sit in confessionals, dig secret minds, plot, plan, pretend, dissemble, darken, lie. Heaven yet shall drag thee forth and lift thee high, and with its hand of might and holy ire fling thee, foul serpent, in the eternal fire. O monstrous pyramid, I see it rise, it seems to tower and touch the very skies. Man's lofty free morality is mute in the dread presence of the Absolute. The priest is in the place of the Most High, all must submit to his authority. Then in his turn the priest doth bend before the bishop, while the bishop doth adore the pope, and he, well, Satan doth inspire, Satan dark-dressed in Jesuit's attire. And in that fraud, than he there is none higher. Ye foolish victims of conspiracy, what's your pope? A mask, a mystery. The mouthpiece is another. Read and see the doctrines of the Jesuits, who guide the papal judgment and unseen decide. The voice of the infallible, and read the story of their deeds. Take ye good heed, to whom your soul's salvation ye commit. Who is it that in truth doth yonder sit in that dark Vatican? See wheel and wheel, how works the strange machine, so to which ye kneel, and how one name another doth conceal. Apostles guide not now, the church is dumb, the fathers dead and buried, conscience numb, the intellect, the soul have lost their eyes. Bibles are banned, and wisdom only lies in one man's breast. And who is at his back? Ah, that's the question. Only trace the track behind the papal chair, where to and fro it winds, and you shall meet with wonder. Lo, another pope behind the pope we know. The papal chair, where to and fro it winds, and you shall meet with wonder. Lo, another pope behind the pope we know.
You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go
I'm
wild.
sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the web.
Number 322?
First of all, he's not the nominee. And, look, I look forward...
Are you prepared to lose?
No, I'm not going to lose.
Since World War II, America has encouraged and benefited from the global advance of free markets, from the strength of democratic alliances, and from the advance of free societies. At one level, this has been a raw calculation of interest. The 20th century features some of the worst horrors of history because dictators committed them.
If this were a dictatorship, it'd be a heck of a lot easier. Just so long as I'm the dictator.